this is Lily, and in this video interview we're having a look at practical support and assistance for those that are considering walking agreements within the context of walking two individuals together and assisting and supporting themselves and each other within the practical process of keeping themselves and each other stable while walking through the mind consciousness system, while at the same time assisting and supporting each other to develop, to grow, and to expand as individuals and together within the starting point of preparing self and each other in being able to stand as living examples for humanity and the world in the potential that exists for us to in fact change and live together in consideration and regard of ourselves as another in equality and oneness. And obviously this process starts with self, and it is very assistive and supportive to walk this with another as well, to see how ready you are to be able to walk with another in this process. Obviously handling individual as oneself alone is quite a task, and agreements are challenging because it's like facing another you with all the thoughts, backchat, reactions. So you have to make sure and realize what it is you're in fact walking into in an agreement. But obviously more interviews and courses to come, where we'll be walking beings through the whole relationship matrix of the mind consciousness system, and then how to establish an effective agreement with self and another. That will be presented in the Destiny process soon. Alright, in this interview I'd like to particularly focus on an interesting point, that those that are considering agreement or are in an agreement or have been in agreement for a long time or only in the infancy of an agreement can consider, and that is how agreements are in a way relationships in reverse, as follows. I'm certain that many that is listening to this video interview has experienced a relationship within this world and this reality, and even if you have not, you already know the basic patterns that play out within relationships, where you begin with a love, happiness, adoration, weak knees, butterflies in the stomach, perfect happy world experience, feeling love, sex, kissing, hugging, and everything's just perfect. And then as one progresses within one's relationship, all of that starts like falling away, slowly but surely. And then you start facing the ultimate actual reality of the nature of the relationship, and everything turns into eventual resistance, conflict, fighting, backchat, manipulation. And some people within relationships accept and allow themselves to go to a form of acceptance where they tolerate each other. And that's mainly one of the reasons why long-term relationships last. Others go, no, can't handle this, splits the relationship, go separate ways, and in essence just start the whole process again to look for that initial first experience or feeling that they had in the beginning of their previous relationship. And so we accept and allow ourselves to go into cycles. I'm not going to go too deep into relationships at this stage because it has been extensively discussed and explained. Now agreements is absolutely in reverse, because agreements, you will actually face the conflict, the resistance, the backchat, the personality clashes, the reactions, the whole experience within facing another within an agreement will primarily be experienced with uncomfortability and resistance. Why this is because your decision to be in an agreement with another has now changed starting point. Where you've made your decision on being in an agreement with another based on the practical living support and assistance of self with and as another to develop, to grow, to expand, and to change. Whereas with relationships within the world matrix, that is supporting and assisting personalities, mind, self-definitions and things like that, so that people search their personality compatibilities or representations. And obviously in that, the fit will initially seem easy, simple, comfortable, because it is a equal and one personality, mind, consciousness system representation fit. And obviously why that will eventually start falling and fading away is because personality can only last for so long due to it having to be fed with energy constantly and continuously. So as the relationships start developing and people start changing their personalities toward each other, because the energy that initially was charged to feed those personalities starts fading away, as they become more like comfortable with each other in thinking, believing, or perceiving that, okay, I don't need to hold up this personality definition anymore, I can just be me. And then when that me of each other comes out as the actual real physical self, they realize, oh my god, who is this? What did I get myself into? And that's how and why relationships fall. Whereas with agreements, your starting point is walking change. And because from a certain perspective, you within yourself, within your mind consciousness system, know that when I walk this agreement, I will change. You're going to face resistance, fear, conflict, where within yourself, your mind is going to try and throw at you everything and all it can for you to not walk this agreement, because it, as you knows, you are going to change if you really walk this through and stick this through. So you're just a perspective. I'm not saying that this is an absolute, meaning that this will happen in all agreements, but it will be a prominent point within most agreements, where when you walk that, when you are absolutely certain within yourself that this is what you're walking, this is the change that you're going to be taking on within yourself with another, this is the process where you've now laid out your basic agreement in like written word, where both agree how you're going to walk this agreement. That's how your mind consciousness system will try and throw out all its defense and protection mechanisms, and will use like internal conflict, resistance, manipulations, backchat, things like that. So it's just to understand why some people might experience initial uncomfortability when starting an agreement. Plus, you're not starting it with personality, you're starting it with the real self. And the real self is a bit fucked up. I mean, obviously it's not seen, realized, and understood yet, because we've got all these beautiful personalities veiling the actual truth and reality of who we are. But as especially Destonians start walking their process and walk through their personalities, the beautiful, pretty ideas that is portrayed, one see the reality of self. And I mean, it's not cool. And therefore it would be cool to walk with someone that you can say, okay, this is how I am at this moment. This is what I'm working with. This is where I'm at in my process. These are my reactions that I tend to have. However, I am facing them in this way, in this way, and in this way, and in this way. Would you like to walk with me? You have a look at your agreement partner. Where are they within their process? You can both put yourselves in front of yourselves and say, okay, this is where we are. How, with the practical tools of writing, self-forgiveness, self-corrective application, the forums, the Destiny process, can we assist and support ourselves to walk this through effectively, to actually change? And also, please to note, if you're initially, your conflict or your resistances and your uncomfortability just gets too much, and it's not stopping, and you have utilized all the resources available to face yourself with your partner to walk this through. You've walked the writings, you've had chats, you've done your self-forgivenesses, you've done corrective applications, you've gotten all the perspectives that you feel you could, and you've done everything that you could, and there's still massive amounts of conflicts and resistance and things like that. It would obviously be best then to stop the agreement, because what you are showing you within that is that there are points and parts within yourself that you have not yet effectively established and walked through with yourself alone. That is to such an extent that if you're going to try and walk with it with another, that you're mostly going to compromise and harm yourself and the other. And thus is simply an indication that you're not yet prepared to walk with another. You've got to walk with yourself first in being able to take responsibility for all parts of you, where you make sure that you cannot and do not blame your process on another. That is also the primary point of why conflict or resistance or uncomfortability in the initial beginning stages of the agreement will also escalate, is because of your tendency to blame and not take responsibility for your own process yet. So all you do, it's not a judgment, it's simply realizing, okay, there's more that I need to assert myself in and take responsibility for within myself, and therefore it would be best for all for me to first focus on me, make sure that I can take responsibility for me and not blame at all, because only then obviously can I effectively walk with another, because then my process won't consist of blame or projection, it'll consist of bringing it back to self, taking responsibility and sharing it with your partner. Alright, so here's just a perspective and little points to consider when facing agreement, and why and how it is reverse from relationships within the context of, especially in the beginning of the process. Thank you.